There is a moment in the imperial palace of Solmithus on a summer night so quiet you could hear the candle wax crawl down the silver holders when Emperor Castiel Vorenhall opens his eyes in his own bed and feels something cold and wrong slide between his ribs. He does not understand at first. He has been emperor for 12 years. He has held this woman in his arms for 12 years. He has signed her name into every gate, every garrison, every grain warehouse of an empire that stretches from the salt cliffs of the western sea to the black pine forests of the eastern frontier. The thing in his chest is not pain yet, it is information. His body is telling his mind that the warmth he loved more than his crown has just become the cause of his death. He looks up, and he sees her. Empress Lirien Vorenhall, the woman he married when he was 19 and she was 17, the woman whose laughter he once described in a private letter as the only sound in the empire that did not bow to him. She is straddling his chest. Her long black hair is loose. Her wedding bracelet, the one he forged her himself in the imperial smithy when he was a young prince trying to impress a girl, catches the candlelight and throws a thin gold line across her cheek. Her hand is on the hilt of a dagger. The dagger is buried in him to the carved silver guard. And the dagger, dear viewer, the dagger is the one he gave her on their 10th anniversary. The one he commissioned with her family crest melted into the steel. The one he kissed before he placed it in her palm. She leans down. Her hair falls across his face. He smells the perfume he has bought for her in 3 different countries. And she says, in the soft, intimate voice she has used for 12 years, to whisper good morning into the back of his neck, she says, "I am sorry, my love. The crown is more important than love." That is the first sentence of this story. Remember it. Because everything that comes after, the goddess of vengeance, the bargain that costs more than a life, the 13 years of silent surgical revenge, the empire that burns from inside the marriage bed without a single torch ever being lit, all of it grows out of that one sentence, whispered by a woman who knew exactly which rib to slide a blade between. Hit subscribe to RiseArc, dear viewer, because the saga we are about to walk through is one of the cleanest, coldest revenge arcs you will ever hear, and you are going to want to be here when the bill comes due. I am RiseArc. I am the one who tells you these stories, and I am also, as you will discover toward the end, Ood. This is a logistics operation. Second, he understands that his brother, the brother whose hands he trusted to cradle the future of the dynasty, has been working with his wife for years, maybe 4 years, maybe more. Third, and this is the one that breaks him on the inside before his body can finish dying, he understands that the thing he called love was, for her, a 12-year confidence trick. Every laugh, every breakfast, every time she touched the small of his back when he could not sleep, every time she said his name in a way that made him feel like he was the only person in the world. All of it. Inventory. A long, careful inventory of the man she was preparing to dismantle. His vision narrows. He hears Roderick give an instruction to someone outside the door about the order of announcements in the morning. He hears Lirien say, conversationally, "He really did love me, you know, right to the end." And Roderick laughs, quietly, the way brothers laugh at a private joke, and he says, "That was the only thing he ever did well." And then Castiel Vorenhall, 12th Emperor of Solmithus, the man who in his own first life signed his wife's name onto access papers for every garrison in the empire because he could not imagine a single day in which she would lie to him, dies in his own bed under the weight of the woman he loved. But this is not the end. Dear viewer, this is barely the first 3 minutes of our story. Now hold on, because here is where it gets strange. Because the moment Castiel's heart stops, the world does not go black. The candle on the nightstand does not blur. Lirien does not fade. Instead, the room around him simply pauses. Lirien's hair, mid-fall across his face, freezes in the air. Roderick, mid-step toward the door, holds his weight on one boot like a statue caught mid-stride. The candle flame becomes a thin orange triangle that does not flicker. And Castiel realizes that he is standing, not in his body, beside it. looking down at the bed and at his own face, which looks, he notes with a strange detachment, much younger and much more tired than he had thought. 12 years on a throne is 12 years on a throne. A voice behind him says, quote 3. Castiel turns, and there she is, the goddess Nyxara. He knows it is her without being told, the way you know your own heartbeat. She is tall. She is veiled in something that is not cloth, something that looks like the night sky has been folded into a shawl, with stars moving inside it like slow fish. Her eyes are not eyes. Her eyes are two open doors. And behind both doors, there is weather. Slow weather. The kind of weather that has been moving across the inside of a god for a very long time. When she looks at Castiel, he feels the way a field feels when a storm decides whether to ruin it. She walks around the bed. She steps over Roderick's frozen boot without looking at it. She kneels beside Castiel's body, and she touches his cheek with the back of one finger, and she says, almost to herself, quote 4. Castiel, the version of him standing beside the bed, the version that is still allowed to think, finds his voice. He says, ___, quote, _5, ___. And Nyxara answers without looking at him. She says, quote, 6. That sentence stops him, because in his entire life, in the cathedral lessons, in the imperial archives, in the long, whispered histories his tutor used to recite by candlelight, he has never heard a single line that suggested the Vorenhall family belonged to any god. The Vorenhalls were the gods of Solmithus. That was the entire point of being a Vorenhall. Nyxara stands, she turns to face him, and she says, quote, 7. She lifts her hand. The room around them, the frozen room with Lirien mid-fall and Roderick mid-stride, and the candle flame held in place like a pinned insect. The room begins to peel, layer by layer, like wet paint coming off a wall. Behind the paint there is a corridor of mirrors, and in every mirror there is Castiel. But in every mirror he is a different age. In one he is 6, holding his mother's hand at her funeral. In one, he is 14, the first time he held a sword that was not a toy. In one, he is 19, the morning of his wedding, smiling at himself in a polished shield because his mouth would not stop shaking. Nyxara says, I can put you back, not as a ghost, not as a whisper in someone's dream, as yourself, with every memory of this night intact, with every memory of every betrayal, every signature she forged, every garrison she turned, every name your brother bought. I can put you back into your 19-year-old body on the morning of your wedding with the full mind of the man who just died on that bed. You will have 13 years. 13 years to do whatever you decide is justice. Castiel's hands begin to shake. He says, quote 9. Nyxara is quiet for a long moment. The mirrors ripple. And then she says, very gently, the way you tell a child that a pet is not coming home. Quote 10. He says, quote 11. She says, quote 12. He looks at the bed. He looks at Lirien's frozen face, at the small, tender curl at the corner of her mouth that was, for 12 years, the single most beautiful thing in his world. He looks at his own dead body, at the bracelet on her wrist that he forged, at the dagger he commissioned. And he understands, dear viewer, with the clarity that only the freshly murdered are granted, that he has already lost the thing she is offering to take. That love died in him the moment Lirien said, the crown is more important. Nyxara is not asking him to give up love. Nyxara is asking him to give up the lie that he was ever capable of recognizing it. He says, yes. He does not say it loudly. He does not say it with rage. He says it the way a man signs a warrant. And Nyxara closes her eyes, and she says, good. And she puts her palm flat against his chest where the dagger is buried in his other body, and the corridor of mirrors collapses inward, and the storm behind her eyes finally breaks, and Castiel Vorenhall falls upward, through 12 years of his own marriage, like a stone falling up a well. He wakes in a small bed. The sheets are linen. The light is wrong. The light is the soft yellow of a summer morning in the eastern wing of the imperial palace, and he has not slept in this room since he was a prince. He sits up. His chest does not hurt. He looks at his own hands. They are smooth. They are 19 years old. They have not yet signed a single law. There is a knock at the door. A servant's voice, young and cheerful, calls through the wood. __quote _16 __. And Castiel Vorenhall, with the full memory of his own murder still warm behind his eyes, with the smell of his wife's perfume still in his nose, with the weight of the dagger she has not yet been given still pressing on his ribs, looks at the closed door and smiles. It is not a young man's smile. It is the smile of a man who has been given by a goddess the one resource a murdered husband never gets: time. Time and a list. He says very quietly to the empty room. __quote _17 __. Dear viewer, this is where the revenge begins, and I want you to understand before we go any further what kind of revenge this is going to be. Castiel Vorenhall is not going to ride into the chapel and stab his bride at the altar. Castiel Vorenhall is not going to throw his brother out of a tower window before lunch. Castiel Vorenhall has done the math on the bedroom floor beside Nyxara in the half-second between the dagger and the door, and he has understood the only thing that matters. If he kills Lirien on the morning of the wedding, he kills a girl. He kills a 17-year-old in a white dress whose only crime on this specific morning is being beautiful and being afraid. Nobody will believe she was a monster. Her family will go to war. Her co-conspirators, the ones whose names he does not yet know, the ones his older self never saw because he was too busy loving her, those people will scatter into the empire like roaches under a lifted stone, and they will spend the next 13 years rebuilding the same plot under a different face. He will have killed the symptom and missed the disease. So he is not going to kill her. Not today. Not for a very long time. He is going to marry her. He is going to smile at her across the altar. He is going to lift her veil. He is going to kiss her in front of 2,000 witnesses. He is going to carry her over the threshold of their bridal chamber. He is going to whisper into the back of her neck the same good morning she once whispered into his. He is going to be, for as long as it takes, the most loving husband the empire has ever produced. And while he is doing that, with one hand, with the other hand, very slowly, very carefully, with the patience of a man who has already died once and has nothing left to be afraid of, he is going to take her empire apart, brick by brick, name by name, garrison by garrison. He is going to find every single person who in the first life helped her hold the dagger, and he is going to, one by one, remove them from her board. Not loudly, not visibly. He is going to make them disappear into accidents, into reassignments, into faraway provinces, into quiet retirements, into graves that look exactly like the graves of men who simply got old. And he is going to do it so slowly, so politely, so lovingly, that by the time Lirien Vorenhall realizes the shape of what is being done to her, there will be no one left in the Empire who will pick up her phone. That, dear viewer, is the revenge. The revenge is that she gets to watch. The revenge is that she gets to be the Empress of an empire whose every loyal man is loyal to him. The revenge is that on the night she lifts the dagger, the same night, 12 years from now, the same dagger, the same whisper, he is going to be sitting up in bed already, fully dressed, with a candle already lit, and he is going to look at her, and he is going to say the one sentence that no woman who has spent 12 years acting in a play is prepared to hear. He is going to say, __, quote _, 18 __. But we are getting ahead of ourselves, because there is 1 hour between Castiel and the chapel, And in that hour, before he puts on the wedding coat that he has already worn once in another life, he has to do 3 things. He has to look his older brother Roderick in the eye and not kill him. He has to look at his own father, the dying Emperor Halric Vorenhall, and not warn him. And he has to walk past the open window of the Eastern Wing, where the captain of the Imperial Guard, a young man named Aldrich Vane, is at this very moment polishing the ceremonial sword that, in the first life, he died holding while trying to keep 3 assassins out of Castiel's bedroom. Aldrich Vane does not know he died. Aldrich Vane, on this morning, is 23 years old. He has a wife who is 6 months pregnant with a daughter named Thessa. He has a small house in the lower city that he has not finished paying for. He has a sword he polishes every morning because he believes, with the full, sincere stupidity of a young captain, that an emperor's life is the most important thing in the world. In the first life, Castiel Vorenhall barely knew this man's name. Aldrich Vane died in a stairwell at 36, defending a man who, the next morning, signed away a garrison to please his wife. Aldrich's daughter Thessa grew up without a father, in a house that the Imperial Pension Office, on Lirien's instruction, mysteriously stopped paying after the 2nd year. Castiel pauses at the window. He looks down. He sees the top of Aldrich's head, the dark hair cropped short, the steady, patient circles of the polishing cloth on the sword. And Castiel Vorenhall, the man who can no longer love, feels something that is not love, but is in the same neighborhood. He feels a debt. He feels the specific, cold, mathematical clarity of a man who has been handed a list of names and is now looking at the first one. He leans out the window. He calls down, in a voice that he carefully tunes to sound like a 19-year-old prince on his wedding morning, nervous and a little too cheerful. __quote _19 __. Aldrich looks up, confused. Princes do not, as a rule, lean out of windows on their wedding mornings to chat with the guard. Aldrich stands. He bows. He says, quote, 20. And Castiel says, quote, 21. Aldrich, who has never been inside the private study of any member of the imperial family, who has never been told to bring a weapon into a room where weapons are forbidden, who has no idea why he, a captain of 23 with a pregnant wife, is being summoned by the heir to the throne on the most important day of the heir's life, does the only thing his training allows him to do. He bows again, deeper, and he says, Your Highness, I will be there. Castiel closes the window. The first name on the list has just been moved. Not promoted, not killed. Simply, quietly, pulled 1 inch closer to the throne, into a position where, over the next 13 years, he can be slowly, invisibly, turned into the single most loyal, most well-paid, most strategically placed weapon in the Empire. A weapon whose existence Lirien will not register, because Lirien, in this life as in the last, has never bothered to learn the names of the men who polish swords under her windows. Dear viewer, this is how empires fall. Not with a dagger in a bedroom, with a name on a list, and a window, and a 1-hour head start. Now, before we walk Castiel into the chapel, before we watch him lift Lirien's veil and kiss the woman who, in another life, will straddle his chest at 32 and tell him the crown is more important than love, I need you to do something for me. I need you to look at the screen and ask yourself a question. The question is not, will he get his revenge? Of course he will get his revenge. We have 13 years and a goddess and a list. The question, dear viewer, is the one Nyxara already answered for him in the Corridor of Mirrors, and it is the question this entire saga is actually about. The question is, what is left of a man after you remove the part of him that loved? What does Castiel Vorenhall become over 13 years of pretending to be a husband when the pretending is the only warm thing in him? Does he stay a man? Does he become something Nyxara was always trying to build in some quiet corner of her long weather since before he was born? And when Lirien finally lifts the dagger, on the same night, in the same bed, with the same whispered apology, when she says the crown is more important than love, what happens inside the chest of a man who, by then, no longer remembers what the second word in that sentence means? Hold that question. Carry it with you, because we are about to walk into the chapel of St. Aelus on a summer morning in the imperial city of Solmithus, where 2,000 witnesses are waiting to see a 19-year-old prince marry a 17-year-old girl in a white dress. And the prince, when he lifts her veil, is going to smile at her with a mouth that has already kissed her corpse in a future she does not yet know exists. And she, dear viewer, she is going to smile back, because she does not know yet. I am RiseArc. Stay with me. The wedding is next.